Well, congratulations. We have made it to the final week of the semester. In this video, as you can see, we're going to focus on wrapping up the course and identifying what your key takeaways are. So the primary objectives for this video are to summarize the major concepts we've discussed this semester that are related to effective college teaching. And then I'm going to ask you to reflect on how this course has prepared you to continue developing as an evidence-based, reflective college educator. So the final discussion post, and there's just one topic this time, is for you to identify what are your biggest takeaways from this course. And this picture is one that comes to mind when I hear takeaway. I spent a semester in Australia as a Fulbright scholar, and they wouldn't say carry out, they'd say take away. And I think that's a nice way to think about what are you going to take away from this course that you can refer to later, that you can pull back into practice, that you can consider as you perhaps encounter new challenges or opportunities. So I have a few bullet points here, and you'll see this in Canvas when you get to that discussion post. You don't have to address all of them, but think about some of the biggest things that you learned from this semester and how those might benefit you as you move forward. So as a reminder, we had an ambitious list of course learning outcomes, and I've bolded a few of the things here that we addressed. So everything from talking about theories to those outcomes and designing your syllabus, identifying different teaching methods and practices, teaching modes that you can implement, developing a teaching portfolio that has that example syllabus, TILT assignment, and your philosophy, which again is reflected on one of these outcomes. And then your final project is that SOTL project proposal, where you can pull several of these ideas together perhaps to pose a research question, identify relevant literature, and consider how you might go about exploring that. So we've had a very good semester of exploring a number of topics and issues and strategies relevant to college teaching. And you've been able to demonstrate your learning through a number of assignments or assessments. So the discussion with classmates was always enlightening to share your experiences and what you're applying from the class. You were able to attend a TLPDC event and see the importance of continued professional development. You interviewed a college teacher and reflected on that. You completed that syllabus assignment with an accompanying PILT assignment description to reflect the transparency framework. You've developed a teaching philosophy. And finally, you're putting into practice several of these strategies in a mini lecture through your teaching demonstration to help us all learn something new about college teaching. And that final project is the SOTL project proposal, which is to apply a teaching theory to perhaps explore a new technique and how you would go about collecting empirical data to support any conclusions you could draw. So when we think about all the concepts that we've discussed this semester, I thought I'd lay it out in how you might approach teaching a class. And that is, we talked about things you need to know before the semester starts or the term or whatever time frame the course is. You need to identify who your students are, what are the knowledge and skills they're bringing, but also what are perhaps some personal characteristics or motivations that might influence how you teach the course. We recognize the importance of backward course design, where you start with the end in mind. What are the key learning outcomes that you hope students can achieve? And then work backwards to design the assessments and then the day-to-day lectures or learning activities to help support that. We also recognized the transparency in learning and teaching framework and how that can be used to develop assessments that are more clear and help students feel more confident as they approach them. Once you've done that, then there are many things you have to do during the teaching. And as you can see by the box, there's lots of bullet points. So you have to select the appropriate teaching methods and modes of learning, what's going to align with those outcomes you've identified. You have to establish and maintain a positive learning community. We talked about many strategies to help students feel welcomed and included and seen in the classroom. There are ways that you can enhance student motivation and drawing upon their own experiences or helping them see how the course might benefit them in the future. We talked about the need to help students develop self-regulated learning skills, and a lot of that has to do with how they might feel prepared to review the material or to complete the tasks that the course has set out in front of them. That's this bullet point here, really about helping students feel prepared for class, doing the readings and the homework and study advice for those exams or quizzes. We discussed the power of feedback and, the times when you need to give grades and how do you do that equitably and timely. We have recently discussed technology and what that is doing in the classroom and how we can use technology effectively. We hope that by doing some of these earlier things well, we can avoid classroom incivilities, but they do happen. So we identified strategies to address those. And we also recognize the importance of academic integrity and having those conversations with students to ensure that they're completing the work honestly and it reflects their own effort. So we do all those things during the course. And then when it's over, I hope that you'll take time to reflect and document teaching effectiveness. Sometimes that is done through those student teaching evaluations. Perhaps it's through your own self-reflection, or maybe you had some sort of peer teaching observation and you can reflect. And then you'll need to make adjustments for the next course offering. I also said or notes because it might be a while before you get to teach the class. Maybe it'll be a year. So it's important to make those notes so that you can refer to them when the time comes. And so I have this arrow here to show that it should be a cyclical process, and you use those reflections and notes to inform how you set up the course the next time. Throughout this entire time frame, there are certain things happening. You need to recognize relevant learning theories. Which learning theories might be the most appropriate? Is it experiential learning theory, or do you want to use a different pedagogical approach such as service learning? Or constructivism, and recognizing that and how that would fit in your course. There's opportunities throughout this to conduct the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning to enhance what you're doing and to better serve your students. And then documenting teaching effectiveness. It's important to keep track of what's working well and maybe what isn't, and we've identified some strategies to do that this semester. So that's college teaching at a glance. It's a lot of things. I hope this summary helps you reflect on what all you have learned this semester. So my final comments and my final in review slide is that I hope that you can recognize that teaching is a scholarly, reflective practice. It does take a lot of work to do it well. And good teachers are going to be even busier because you're going to be the ones that students reach out to for recommendation letters, for advice, or just to catch up. And that is one of the best parts of being a teacher. I hope that you'll continue to apply what you've learned this semester in your future classrooms, wherever that takes you. But continue to find ways to enhance your teaching. Talk to others, conduct Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, go to professional development conferences, and just know that you're never done becoming the best teacher you can be. There's always more work we can do. So I wish you the best in all your teaching endeavors in the future. And please reach out if you have any questions. And I'd love to hear where this class maybe comes in handy down the road for you.